As long as there are strong fan bases out there for the bands that they love, their music will never die. You know, as we rolled into the 90s and grunge music took over, it was made for everybody to believe that that grunge sound killed 80s glam metal and 80s hair rock. Now, personally, I don't believe that. But I do believe there's one band out there that completely merged the two decades and the sounds and was able to fit into both, regardless of what you wanted to call them. And that is Guns N' Roses. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back, music lovers, especially my rock music lovers. You know, Guns N' Roses, I believe, is universally loved by millions and many. No doubt. There's hard to find a person out there that says they do not like Guns N' Roses. But you know what? I do believe one thing. Their impact is a lot larger than what we give them credit for, or we may even realize. But in this video today, we're going to dive into why I think that is, and you tell me if you agree. Let's quickly start with William Bruce Rose Jr., or to pretty much everybody in the entire world, we know him as Axl Rose, who was born on February 6, 1962 in Lafayette, Indiana. Not Louisiana, Indiana. Now trust me, I've lived in that central northern region of the country. I lived in Michigan, southern Michigan. So northern Indiana, they're not much different. Very rural, very boring. So growing up in Lafayette and then attending Jefferson High School, Rose did choir, and that really helped his vocal ability. So whoever that choir teacher was, knowing what we know now and what Axl Rose became, especially vocally, thank goodness that was a hell of a choir teacher. And not only that, he learned to play piano while he was there as well. Rose played in a band during his time at Jefferson High School, and he played it with a few friends, one of his friends being Jeff Isbell, or to us, we know him as Izzy Stradlin. So Izzy was born April 8th, 1962 in Lafayette, Indiana as well. Now, quick side note, I didn't know this till I was researching this video. Izzy and I actually share the same birthday. Pretty cool. So in 1982, both Rose and Stradlin moved out to Los Angeles to do what pretty much I can imagine a large percentage of people do when they go out to Los Angeles to pursue their dreams, whether it's music, acting, whatever it is. They're going out there with the hopes of being a star. It was in 1983 that Stradlin and Rose, out in Los Angeles, just a year after they'd been there, they were dabbling in different bands, separate from each other. They actually got together, back together, and they formed the band Hollywood Rose. So the following year, in August of 1984, Hollywood Rose disbanded. Now, Izzy Stradlin went on to do some other projects, one of them being the band London. Now, London was already pretty much a staple on the Sunset Strip. Everybody knew who they were, and they kicked ass. Some of their past members being Blackie Lawless, the lead singer of Wasp, and Nikki Sixx, the bassist of Motley Crue. Now, when he was done with London, December of 1984, he was back with Axl, and Hollywood Rose was back on. So 1985 is when the formation of Guns N' Roses actually happened. So with the research I found, and I could be wrong, but I found a couple different conflicting stories. So help me out in the comment section if you know something different, or maybe you know something more factual than what I was able to find. So the band LA Guns actually got together with Stradlin and Rose, Hollywood Rose, and they formed the band. They merged together, Guns N' Roses. Now, the guy that was managing LA Guns at the time helped promote the band, so I believe that's why those guys actually got in the band. But we do know that not long after, the lineup was about to change. But again, that's where we got the name Guns N' Roses, the formation of the two bands. Now, it was in June of 1985 that the Guns N' Roses lineup officially consisted of Rose on vocals, Slash on lead guitar, Stradlin on rhythm guitar, Duff McKagan, bass, and to round it out, Steven Adler on the drums. Saul Hudson, or better known to us as Slash, was born July 23rd, 1965 in Hempstead, London. Now, that was only until he was 6 years old, and that's when his family uprooted from there and moved out to Los Angeles, California. Prior to joining Guns N' Roses, Slash was very deep-rooted in that Los Angeles metal scene. I mean, he knew a lot of the right people. He knew a lot of the bands. To put it bluntly, he pretty much knew all the right people you would need to know if you wanted to help your band become successful in that scene. Now, Michael Andrew McKagan, or better known to us as Duff, he was born 1964, February 5th in Seattle, Washington. Him and his brother actually moved out to LA in 1983. Now, he was musically talented. He was gifted. There's no doubt about that. But his first job out in LA wasn't with a band. He was actually working at a restaurant as a server. Now, finally, Michael Collette, or better known to us as Steven Adler, he was born in Cleveland, Ohio, January 22nd, 1965. Prior to being with GNR, he actually moved out to Los Angeles in 1972. We officially had GNR together. Their lineup was cemented. They were ready to rock and roll. Now, as I said before, all these guys, they were known in that scene as individuals. Now they were just needed to get known as Guns N' Roses. Now listen, the thing is, they were already rocking that area. I mean, they were literally tearing up the Troubadour, tearing up the Roxy, the Whiskey A Go-Go, night after night. I mean, 1985 and 1986, they were opening for some of the hottest bands that were in that area at the time. Now, being signed with Geffen Records in July of 1987, the band officially released their debut album, Appetite for Destruction. Now, knowing what we know now and knowing that this album has sold well over 30 million copies worldwide to date, Appetite for Destruction wasn't that popular when it was released. I mean, that blows my mind because we know how many hits came off that album. It actually took the band over a year to see that album reach #1 on the charts. I've always said that Appetite for Destruction was a home run for Guns N' Roses. Their debut album. Now, you got so many people out there, these bands that have debut albums that are amazing, but they don't do much after that. Or even people that have one-hit wonders. You know, they'll forever be known for that one hit, but would they ever regret it, saying, hey, I didn't have more success after that? I don't think most of them would say no. I mean, some may say yes, but it's just amazing that even though it didn't gain traction right out of the gate, Appetite for Destruction is one of the greatest rock albums of all time, no matter what. I'm not going to argue with anybody on that, but it's just crazy that they struck gold on their first try. You know, being born in the late 80s, my first real actual memories of hearing fresh music on the radio was around the time the grunge movement was hitting its peak. I remember hearing Nirvana a lot. I remember hearing Soundgarden a lot, Alice in Chains. But I can always remember my uncle loved Appetite for Destruction. As a young kid, he'd have me on the ground doing push-ups in his room, and I remember hearing Out to Get Me and Mr. Brownstone, his two favorite songs off that album. I mean, not to mention the singles and the hits, but he loved those two songs, and I can still hear them in my head every day. So now to kind of touch back on what I said earlier about a band releasing their debut album and being a huge success, or the one-hit wonder example. Guns N' Roses had set the bar pretty high with Appetite for Destruction. As they were getting in the studio to work on their next album, GNR Lies, they had some big shoes to fill. Would they fill them? So Guns N' Roses released GNR Lies in 1988. It reached #2 on the Billboard 200, and it had a top 5 hit, Patience. One of my favorite Guns N' Roses songs of all time. I think it's an amazing song. I mean, the melody, the guitar, Axl's voice, an amazing song. But the album came with a little bit of controversy as well. So the song One in a Million off of GNR Lies. This song came with a ton of controversy, pretty much all directed toward Axl Rose. Man, I'm not going to say some of the slurs he used, but go listen to the song, and a lot of homophobic slurs, racism. I mean, a lot of stuff that, and again, if you go back and listen to some of the explanations that Axl Rose gave on the words he used, he pretty much tried to justify them in every which way. He would later on go to say that he did mean them in the way that they were perceived. But again, the song as a song, musically, good, but lyrically, can't 100% stand by Axl on that one. So pretty much everything that comes with the releasing an album, the guys toured, you know, still riding high in Appetite for Destruction that was released a few years earlier. GNR Lies, it was good, no doubt. It wasn't like it was a bust or a dud. It was good and had good songs. So the guys touring through 88 and 89, as they rolled into 90 though, before they would get back into the studio to work on their next album, there was about to be some changes. For one, Steven Adler, the drummer, was heavy in his addiction, bad enough to where the guys just decided they couldn't move forward with him in the state he was in. So again, the rock star life. There's a lot of people out there that get heavy in the drugs. But they ended up firing Steven, and they brought in Matt Sorum to be the new drummer for Guns N' Roses moving forward. So in 91, the guys released 2 albums. Simultaneously, they released Use Your Illusion 1 and Use Your Illusion 2. Now, these both hit the charts. They reached #1 and 2 on the Billboard 200. And I gotta be honest, pretty good albums, and definitely, again, didn't live up to the, you know, the standard of what Appetite for Destruction set. But again, the guys were still Guns N' Roses, and they just released 2 awesome albums. I need you to do me one favor real quick. If you like the video so far, please hit the subscribe button. That will help me grow. That will have YouTube put me out to a more vast audience. Just like supporting your favorite artist or band. You pay money to buy their albums. You pay money to go see their shows. That helps them become successful at doing what they love. If you hit the subscribe button for me, that'll help me grow. And guess what? It's free. Let's get back to the video. I'm going to tell you right now, the Use Your Illusion album's absolutely underrated. These guys did a hell of a job on these albums, and they don't get enough respect. I mean, November Rain is an amazing song, an amazing ballad, but the song Don't Cry and Estranged, they live up to it just as equally. I mean, they're amazing songs. And the 2 covers they did, Live and Let Die and Knocking on Heaven's Door, they showed so much respect and made it their own that you gotta love Guns N' Roses, and you gotta love these albums. In fact, my wife didn't even know that Knocking on Heaven's Door by Guns N' Roses was a cover. So I went back and had her listen to the Bob Dylan version, and she hated it. She didn't like it. But again, it's a different sound. Guns N' Roses showed their respect to an amazing artist and an amazing song. They took it, they made it their own, and they let a whole new generation fall in love with their version. Which is the point, right? Use Your Illusion albums. Completely underrated. So to promote their Use Your Illusions album, the guys went on a very lengthy tour from 91 all the way through 93. I mean, the thing was, right at 91, right when the tour was about to begin, Izzy Stradlin, he left the band. It was very abrupt and it wasn't expected. Knowing what we know now, we kind of understand, but at the time, it wasn't understood very well. But they ended up bringing in Gilby Clarke to play guitar and finish out the tour with the band. 1993 saw the guys release their next studio album, The Spaghetti Incident. And to be clear, a good album, but it's a full-length cover album, and they're covering all punk bands, except for the hidden track, which is a Charles Manson song, by the way. If you haven't heard it, go check it out. But, they were covering some awesome bands that I love personally. The Misfits, The Stooges, The New York Dolls, The Damned. All great bands and a great, great album. Thing was, there was no plans to go out and tour after this album, for one, which is uncommon. A lot of bands release an album, whether it's a cover album or not. It's still a reason to get out on the road and tour. It's money. But there was a lot of other things that were about to go down after the release of that album. So after the Spaghetti Incident, there were plans to get back in the studio to work on another album. But due to creative differences, I love that term, you've seen Gilby Clarke and Matt Sorum being fired from the band. Following that, you've seen Duff McKagan and Slash walk out the door. So after that, you bring in some new guys, but the only original member of Guns N' Roses that was left in the room was Axl Rose. Around 1998, when Axl Rose was saying there will be new Guns N' Roses material coming. It didn't matter who was in the band, it was gonna happen regardless. He wanted to bring some industrial electronic elements into the sound, classic Guns N' Roses sound, with some new type of sound that was going on in music at that time. And obviously since then, there's been a lot of changes to music, but at that time, he wanted to be more modern. Can't blame the guy for that, but he didn't say exactly when that was going to happen. One moment that really stands out where I was like, wow, this is legit. This is a whole new lineup. This is a whole new era of Guns N' Roses music. And I'm talking about the 2002 MTV Video Music Awards. I remember Jimmy Fallon hosted that year, and I remember there was a special guest. They wouldn't announce who or give us any clues, and at the end of the show, Jimmy Fallon said, here it comes, the special guest, Guns N' Frickin' Roses. I remember his excitement and reaction. And the curtains open. You hear the intro to Welcome to the Jungle. You see Axl. And then I just remember saying, who is that? Who's that? Who's that? Who the hell is that? I didn't know any of those people except for Axl. That was definitely a moment where you're like, wow, this is real. This is Guns N' Roses now. So after most of the original guys in the lineup were gone, Slash, Duff, Matt Sorum left after he took over for Adler. Gilby Clarke after he took over for Izzy. The guys were gone. It was just Axl. And in 98, we were talking about new music. We didn't get new music until 2008. That's when Chinese Democracy finally came out after all that buildup, all them years of waiting. And you know what? It was actually a pretty damn good album. I'll be honest with you, man. I was pleasantly surprised. I was out of high school, about 2 years out of high school, and I remember, okay, new Guns N' Roses album. I remember all of the hoopla about how long we've been waiting. There's no way it's going to live up to the hype. And you know what? I'll be honest with you. I think it lived up to the hype pretty well. It was kind of obvious over the years Axl was, kind of a hothead. A couple incidents, fights, jumping into the crowds. Just some crazy stuff, And the guys dealt with it because, everybody has their problems, Every family has their problems. And that's pretty much what a band becomes, especially one that sticks together for as long as they did and goes through the stuff that they went through. But Axl got to a point where I think he kind of got consumed in the idea that he was Guns N' Roses. And, once the guys left the band, it was all about him. And I think it stood that way for years. But eventually, in 2016, that ended. But like I said, 2016 was about to be a huge year for Guns N' Roses and Guns N' Roses fans. Because Slash and Duff McKagan got back with Axl, and they were about to embark on a very lengthy tour. The Not in This Lifetime tour. And man, I tell you what, 2016 the tour started, did not end until 2019. And as it stands today on record, that is the third highest grossing tour of all time. Grossed well over $500 million. Not only that, Steven Adler did a couple guest appearances at some of the shows. It was absolutely amazing. The guys said they had a blast and they loved it. And that kind of rekindled that fire of enjoyment that the guys had, back at the beginning. The Appetite for Destruction days. And the guys were a lot older, calmed down a little more. So it was the perfect time to say, hey guys, let's bury the hatchet and let's get this thing going again. Each one of these guys in Guns N' Roses is absolutely amazing. That's the thing that makes them even better than what you realize is each guy is so unique in their own way. Slash is one of the greatest guitarists of all time. And if you have that list up there, his name's always going to be on that. Wherever you want to rank him is fine, but he's one of the greatest. And Axl Rose is one of the greatest frontmen of all time. just his vocals, the way he screeches and sings is amazing. And I don't mean screeches in like a bad way. I mean like he's got an amazing voice. Duff's a good guy, man. He's done some solo stuff. He's done stuff with Slash. They did Velvet Revolver. Scott Weiland leading the helm. Slash has done his solo stuff. He's got Miles Kennedy singing for him. I mean, these guys, they are musicians and they know how to do the music industry right. So one thing I can tell you is Guns N' Roses, these guys have came a long way. Like I said before, Guns N' Roses' sound was perfect, absolutely perfect to make that transition from how rock music was in the 80s. All those guys, all those bands, Poison, Motley Crue, all of them, the way that they sounded in their image, and then to go from that, to come out in that same decade, and go into the 90s, especially the early 90s when grunge took over the world, seemingly overnight. Guns N' Roses' sound was absolutely perfect to fit into both. So no doubt, those guys are absolutely amazing. And again, like I said, I do not think they get enough respect or credit for what they've done for the music industry. And they know they're loved, but again, I think they deserve a lot more respect because they've earned it. There you have it, guys. Guns N' Roses, man. Let's show the guys some love. They've been in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame since 2012, and they've literally stood the test of time. Generation after generation has heard Guns N' Roses and fell in love with Guns N' Roses. And they're still out there kicking ass. I mean, let's just give it to them, guys. What they've done to the music industry is amazing, and the guys are respected all over. And you know what? Let's show them a little bit more love. Again, I want to thank everybody for coming and watching. And again, if you like the video, go check out some more of my videos. There's lots of great, amazing stories in rock and a lot of respect that needs to go around. So again, thank you everybody for watching. Go out there, do something in life. Do something that you want to do. Whatever you're passionate about. Do like Axl did. Do like Slash and the guys from Guns N' Roses did. Find your passion and go for something great. Thank you everybody. Take care of yourself. Until next time, I'm out.